CR here again with another top 10 favorite games, and here we have one of my favorite systems of all time, the Gamecube. This was definitely a hard list to make as there are just so many good games that I played on this console, so you can bet there's going to be an honorable mention segment. The last two games I have on this list are only there because I never got around to beating them completely, but nevertheless had an amazing time playing through them. Without any further ado, let's get to it. Pokemon Colosseum. Now, when I say I never beat this game, I mean by just barely. I got to the end of the final tournament, but I was never able to beat the final boss. Also, there's a bit to do after that, but this game is just a really solid entry in the Pokemon series to me, especially at the time it came out when Pokemon in 3D was seemingly a dream for me, and I believe it did justice. I also know that this wasn't the first 3D Pokemon game because of Stadium, but I actually didn't know of its existence until a while after I played this. And while nice, it didn't give me the same wow effect. You might be saying, why would I rate this over Gale of Darkness? And I just have a lot fonder memories of this game, so maybe mark it up to nostalgia because Gale had some nice quality of life changes, but Colosseum overall was the first one to wow me with graphics and a bit more interesting story that I thought I'd never see from Pokemon, although now some crazy shenanigans is happening with multiple dimensions or whatever. Going to replay and review soon though, so maybe my opinion will change on it, but for right now it sits at number 10. Metroid Prime. I know. Ashamed to put so low on the list, but like I've said, games I haven't beaten are forced to the bottom. This was my first introduction to the Metroid series as a whole, and I have to say, one of the best introductions to a series I've ever played. Even the tutorial section is goddamn amazing with doubly amazing graphics to boot. A little more backtracking than I usually like, but as I've played a couple more of the games in the Metroid series, I came to realize that was essentially the gimmick to add to runtime, but at least for this game, I didn't mind it all that much. Maybe one day I'll snag another copy and like it as much as I did when I was a kid. Soul Calibur 2. I have to be honest and say that the Gamecube version is my favorite. I like the Xbox version as well for giving Spawn. When the games came out, I was a sucker for Link as I had just played Wind Waker and received the Gamecube version of Ocarina, which was the first version of Ocarina I fully played and beat. So having Link in a cool and realistic looking fighting game was awesome, and I loved unlocking all the costumes and weapon sets for it. I don't think I was ever really good at this version of Soul Calibur, mostly mashing my way through most fights, but I nevertheless had a fun time playing and learning about the characters that were in the game. Definitely not my favorite Soul Calibur, but I'll save that for another list. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. If you saw my review, you'd have known that this would definitely make the list. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's a nice guilty pleasure game I used to wind down occasionally. And I just like the overall atmosphere of the game with so much to experience, more than the wackiness most people associate with the Sonic series. I'd also recommend this game solely for the Child Garden, which I could just talk about for hours and hours. Again, not a mode that is everyone's cup of tea, but was something I didn't expect to find myself liking, especially when I just passively saw them, and then it pretty much engulfed my whole experience with this game. The side missions are also challenging and usually fun. By the time you're done, you'll pretty much know the game inside and out, which I like a lot. The story isn't all that bad, albeit weird and cheesy at times, and the music, as always, never fails. Luigis Mansion. Fresh off beating this game, it was nowhere near as challenging as I remembered, and I had a pretty fun time playing through Luigi's first outing on his own, actually learning that there were differences between the US and PAL versions. This was a weird surprise, which may prove a challenge, but I don't know if I'm down to play Luigi's Mansion New Game Plus with built-in critical mode. There's also a couple of cool things I learned about how to get money throughout the game by trying out things I hadn't before, like watering the plants on the rooftop for some good loot. WarioWare Inc. Mega Party Games. This might be a little sad, but I unlocked everything in this game playing by myself pretty much, with my brother playing every so often, and god damn, I had so much fun playing, even if it was by myself. Seeing how fast my reaction time was, or just generally doing weird shenanigans, with all the different mini-games, which there are so many and very, very few that I actively dislike. Most were a blast to play through, and I don't think it's any surprise that my favorites were the ones based on video games, and I think my favorite multiplayer was the Doctor's Waiting Room. Something about it that just always made me want to play over the others. Kai the Tasmanian Tiger 2. This game isn't an exclusive to the system, but this is where I had originally played the game from. I never 100%ed this on Gamecube, but they didn't really change all that much from the Gamecube version gameplay-wise, and I can pretty much tell now that this is my favorite game in the series. I haven't played 4 yet, and I'll get to it, but this game is as solid as you think it's going to get for Kai, though it seems that Chrome is actually going to be making a Kai 5, so maybe that will be my new favorite. Nevertheless, this game had some quality of life changes as well as some additional gameplay that I thought really added to the whole experience over the third, which I felt didn't change enough. Chibi Robo. Probably one of the most fun, abstract, and heartwarming games I've played, besides Moon or Earthbound, and if you haven't played it, I implore you to. It's not particularly action-based, more of a management, due to having to pay attention to battery power, adventure game where you play as, who could have guessed it, Chibi Robo, as you help a family clean up their house, eventually learning about the major troubles they have, as well as helping to ease these troubles. You also meet toys who are alive, robots, frogs, aliens, and a bunch of other stuff in this game, and if that doesn't sound enticing, I don't know what will. A little side note as well, every sound in this game is an absolute joy to hear. Every step you take and every action you do makes a nice, cute little noise, and it really gives the experience a nice touch. Paper Mario, The 1,000-Year Door. I could go on and on talking about how good this game is. From the interesting gameplay, the stunning visuals, humor, and fantastic stories. If you haven't played this game, it's honestly fantastic. With many different ways to go about playing the game with different kinds of abilities to equip, I think most RPG lovers in general would love this game, and I would even say many D&D players would like how the combat works, with enough defense being able to outright block attacks. While this game isn't horribly difficult, there is still definitely a challenge with the final boss staying nice and making you feel accomplished by actually beating it. Then, if you're looking for a real challenge after you beat the game, there's a 100 floor dungeon that should prove challenging enough for anyone who tries it out, even at high levels. I still haven't played the first game, which everyone says is a better one, but hopefully I'll remedy that and have a review for it at some point later this year maybe. Here are some honorable mentions for games that didn't make this list. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Oh good lord. I'm going to mention this as a nostalgia overload packed into a game because this is the first game I booted up the first time I turned on my Gamecube, and oh, it's just so fantastic. Another game with amazing visuals, thrilling story, and really fantastic gameplay. I rarely, if ever, put this game down, even though half the time I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Just setting off in a direction and exploring the world had me hooked, and pretty much the second they let me free to go where I wanted, I started exploring. At the time, I had never played a game that was so open feeling, and I wasted so much time exploring those waters without actually advancing any story, and I really don't regret 1 second of it. I also understand that many people don't like the Triforce segment, but I honestly don't see that much of a problem. I guess forced exploration I understand, but any excuse to explore the world and uncover secrets is a big joy I have when gaming with the ability to do so. Probably why I also played Skyrim so much. I really like this game's reveal too over Ocarina of Time, as it gives a bit more punch to the whole story than Sheik being Zelda, which if you've seen my review for, you know why I think it's not that good of a reveal. Honestly, this is just a really solid game that came out during a kind of solid time in my life gaming-wise, and the game that made me completely love the Legend of Zelda series in the first place. Like I said, I really enjoyed the system and all the wacky games that came out for the console that I always wanted to play, and I've actually gotten to play a lot of them. But one day I'll get to reviewing them and sharing my love or dislike of them with you all at a later date. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next video.